Hi, it's Dr. Marco. Welcome to this week's health tip. Today we're going to be talking about some information from something called the Sharp Again organization. And they've come up with what they say 7 things that can look like dementia. So obviously dementia is a pretty big problem now and it's getting worse over time. And they think up to about 40% of people diagnosed with dementia actually have something else. There could be anything on this list here. So one of the first ones, and one of the more common ones, is just nutritional deficiencies. So if you think about your brain, it needs some raw material to work properly, and it needs fuel, and it needs the right pieces for all the stuff to work. And think of it like an electrical, powerhouse. And if you're missing, specific B vitamins, for example, is important for nerve function, folate or other ones like that. Vitamin D is important for general health of the body and brain function. Omega-3s are important for like the actual structure and the fats that are in the cells of the membranes around the brain, those kind of things. So like in our office, we recommend the mammalian omega-3 oil, because it has the exact same fatty structure that you have in mother's breast milk, and that's the time when your brain is going through lots and lots of pruning and developing in that first breastfeeding few months of life, and it has a very specific fat in it called DPA, which isn't in fish oil and it's not in krill oil or plant oils. So that specific one can kind of go to EPA or DHA, the ones that are important for putting things together. So that's a really important one that we have in the office specifically, but those are sort of some of the things there. And some of the other things too are just not having stable blood sugar levels, because the brain, even though there's a lot of fat and stuff in the membranes, it really uses a lot of glucose to actually run. And if you don't have the proper glucose levels in your blood, then that can just not give the fuel for the brain to work and to fire and do what it's supposed to do. So proper balanced glucose levels are really important. So lots of healthy fruits and vegetables that can have a slow input of sugar into the body, and you're not spiking your insulin with refined carbohydrates and things like that. So that's an important thing. And next on the list, artificial colors, flavors, and sweeteners. There's a lot of kids have bad behavior and things like that. They were linking a lot of that to artificial colors, the flavoring, that kind of thing. And just have a really bad impact on the brain. But the worst one in the category is usually sweeteners, and our aspartame and those kind of things have actually been shown to just cause a lot of damage to the brain function. And I know there are a lot of bodybuilders that they used to, trying to do specific weightlifting. They're having all these protein shakes, and they didn't want sugar in them to avoid all the carbs and stuff. And they were all loaded with this aspartame and all these other kind of artificial sweeteners. And there's very many of them that ended up just having just brain fog and losing their ability to think properly, and then they started to waste muscle, and all sorts of funny things could happen to them because they were just going so much with that. And also aspartame, that can mess up your intestines too. And I've talked a lot about that connection between the health of the intestines and the health of the brain, and both of those are going back and forth, and they both need to be healthy. When aspartame is taken here, it really changes the environment of the bacteria in the intestines, and when that environment gets shifted to a negative aspect, that negative aspect can affect things like neurotransmitters, hormones, and other things, and then the messages back and forth, and that can mess this up too. So it's just a bad situation overall. And then this is a really big one. Their paper says medication side effects. I'm just going to call it medication effects, because it's just an effect and it just happens to be a bad one. And I did another video quite a while ago talking about all the different side effects, like just how medications can have, we call it like a pseudo-dementia. And there's quite a few of them. One of the biggest culprits right now is the statin drugs. And there's a study, I don't know all the numbers and stuff, but I just know that there was a whole pile of people that were taken off their statin drugs, and within a couple of weeks their dementia diagnosis went away because they got their brain back. Because if you think about it, we've talked about it before, cholesterol is an important structural element in the membranes of your cells. So if you don't have cholesterol, there's other things there, or you're just lacking sort of the integrity of something. Cholesterol kind of stabilizes these little channels where nutrients and all these good things are supposed to come in and out of your cells. So if this cholesterol isn't there to stabilize it, it can get loose, and you might not get nutrition in and out of the cells, and it can cause all sorts of problems. And statins also cause a lot of different like muscle aches. So many people go in chiros and doctors and stuff. I'm achy all the time. My muscles are sore. That's another big thing too. Just as a side note. So that's probably going to be one of these big debacles they're going to find like in 10 or 15 years, that they're pushing the statin so much, and very few limited people that it really might be benefiting. The next one is inflammation. So low-grade inflammation from either infections, from mold, from food allergies, and Lyme. And there's other stuff too, but just the idea is that when there's low-grade inflammation, it just damages function. And basically most of the chronic diseases, they're always linking it to like a low-grade chronic abnormal inflammation, not an inflammation for healing, but just inflammation that's going on all the time. Mold is a really big culprit. You know, when people have had leaks in their house and they don't see it, and it can be growing anywhere, and it's a really bad thing. It just causes, and a lot of people that get even like a Lyme diagnosis, the challenge wasn't the tick bite, it was actually like mold toxicity, mold exposures. And it can really cause a lot of mental just fog and just mental clarity off the, just not working right, and memory loss and all sort of mood behaviors. So it causes a lot of big problems. And in low-grade infections too, a lot of people have root canals or caps on their teeth, and there's an infection going on underneath that on the other side, and there's all these anaerobic bacteria causing this low-grade infection that's just distracting the immune system from doing its job. So those are pretty bad things too. And food allergies and even food sensitivity. Sometimes people eat certain foods that their body actually reacts to, and it could even be healthy foods. Like, you know, this person might eat a green apple and they might be having a reaction to it, but it might not happen right away, and it could be like just causing like tiredness, but it could happen like a day or two later. So there's a lot of stuff like that too that goes on.